So there.
Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody back to a bright, beautiful Monday. We are going to start our meeting. So this is a budget meeting. I'd like to introduce our presenters for agenda item number 1, the presentation of the recommended budget. So because of personal spacing, if you'll take a look at it again, we're trying to follow CDC guidelines the best that we can. Both of my colleagues are on the phone, Supervisor Gates and Supervisor Chukri. Because we're personally spacing, I guess we're just going to have the presentation up here and not as usual. Cindy Geltz will be here today. Myra Horgan and Kirsten Chernin is here. Did I get the names right? Close. Hit me with the name. Kirsten. Kirsten. I thought I was dyslexic.
You messed up the first name, not the last.
Ridiculous. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay. Cindy, good morning. Thanks for being here. Great.
So as we get started, thank you, Mr. Scott and Michelle. We also needed to have cooperation. To go over all the budget issues. The budget for fiscal year. Budget is This aligns with the chairman's vision about renewed focus on prioritizing funding for candidates. They have substantial funding. And it also creates an environment for businesses. Budget has been reduced. Revenue. And it also has an increase in our risk to mitigate any so if we have some shocks to the economy that we're anticipating. About 19% of our payments for managed programs and also our payments. And of course, to grow, we will be funding about $22 million. Also includes some actions. Finally,
Yeah.
Okay, we'll use that one.
Test.
Okay.
All right, that should be better.
Okay, sounds good. So back in January, the board approved budget guidelines for fiscal year 21. These guidelines were very similar to what we saw in the past. So we were directed to develop a budget that was sustainable and achieve the county's mission and goals. We wanted to leave the tax rate unchanged, so flat from fiscal year 20, It advised Human Resources to develop a targeted employee compensation strategy. There were guidelines that called for budgets to be submitted at the baseline. No new capital or technology programs would be entertained until the reserved decisions were made, and also we had to evaluate all increases for the impact on the county's expenditure limitation. However, in early March, it became evident that the revenue picture was going to change dramatically. Just as we completed pulling the entire budget together, we had all the baselines reviewed, we had additional funding programmed into the budget. Just as we did the very day that we completed that task, we got numbers from Elliott Pollock, our contract economist, and his revenue estimates were very grim. So on April 8th, we came back to you, and the board adopted some amended guidelines, and those guidelines called for us to use the recession scenario for our revenue estimates. It removed any consideration for pay-for-performance. It asked us to reprioritize the CIP. It called for special revenue funds to review their revenues and make sure that they had a sustainable budget moving forward. And it also required that general and detention fund operating budgets take a 2% reduction. Okay, so back in January, what we thought were going to be the challenges for the budget were very similar to what we saw in previous years. We have increased demands on our service delivery system because we are the fastest growing county in the nation. At that point in January, we had an aging economic cycle. We knew we had to prepare for a downturn. We just didn't realize exactly how quickly it was going to get here. As mentioned earlier, the detention fund, the resources that are coming into that are not sufficient to meet the growth of the expenses there. So we knew we need to funnel some additional general fund money there. As is the case every year, we have increased criminal justice demands, and the criminal justice departments did make some above baseline requests in fiscal year 21. We have structural balance issues in a couple of our special revenue funds, so we knew we needed to address that. At the point in time in January, we had low unemployment, so we needed to come up with a strategy that wouldn't hinder our ability to attract and retain a talented workforce. And finally, as is the case every year, our pension rates are going up and the unfunded liabilities in the pension plans continue to increase. So fast forward to March. Some of the things that we were facing, we still face. The pension issues are still there. The criminal justice demands are still there. But we had some new challenges that we needed to meet when it came to revenue. Right now we are in uncharted waters. This recession looks like no other. There is no modeling that anybody's going to be able to do to say this is how deep it's going to fall and this is when we're going to get out of it. There's just too many unknowns. So we're trying to track and each month look at what the revenue situation is. But part of our issue with this, or our struggle with this, is that other than property taxes, our revenues are on a 2-month lag. So property taxes that were earned in February, we received in April. So when you look at the April financial statements issued by the Department of Finance, things look really good still. Sales tax is still up 9% year over year because you're looking at stuff that happened in February. We will see in May a glimpse of what's going to happen because we have a couple of bad weeks in March that's accounting for, but it won't be until June that we understand 1 full month of what this pandemic is going to do to the economy. So given that, the other challenge that we had was as I mentioned, we had already compiled the whole budget on the day that we got the estimates. So we had done all our analysis, we brought the picture together, and then we had to go back very quickly to make some adjustments because of the revenue situation.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Bill Gates.
Thank you. And Cindy, thanks to you and your team for the incredible work that you have done to shift on the fly and bring a revised budget to us, and I thank you for that. Just a question, though. Obviously, you said there's a lot of unknowns, but you have certainly come forward with what your best estimate is of what the revenue is going to be. Can you talk at all about the assumptions that are baked into that? I mean, are you assuming that sort of the worst is behind us from the pandemic perspective? Does it figure in a second wave? What are those things that you have tried to plug in to come up with these numbers?
Chairman Hickman, Supervisor Gates, I will.
I can't wait for this
Yes,
answer.
we're all waiting. We want to hear what your response is.
So,
We'd like to know too.
yeah, I wish I had that crystal ball. I was watching, I think it was Meet the Press yesterday, and the Fed chair was there, and he's like, we don't know. And we really don't. We don't know. So some of the estimates, maybe I'll take a little step back, and I might repeat myself further into the presentation, so if I do, apologize. But we got numbers from Elliott Pollock fairly early in March. I think it was around the 10th of March that we got the initial numbers. And there was a reduction of our revenues.
Yeah, there you go.
Of about $82 million, not just in sales, jail, and BLT, but also in, I'm going to move this over here. Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had reductions in sales, our sales tax, jail tax, and vehicle license tax. And then we also baked in some other revenue reductions. Based on that, that's the 21 budget was using those numbers that we have from March. We also then got updated numbers in April. They, of course, were worse. So we used those April numbers to adjust what we thought was going to happen in 20, but didn't yet adjust 21. We got numbers again last Monday, May 11th, and they were worse again. So what I can see from what Mr. Pollock gave, he did give us what he was going to think would happen each month. So we're going to be able to use that actually information as we go through the year to be able to target, oh yeah, we're meeting the expectation or not meeting the expectation. But from what I can tell from reviewing his monthly data, he expects this to continue to decline probably through the first 3 months of fiscal year 21 before it, I'll say, isn't a disastrous decline. So he's looking at months that are 50, 40, and 30% down from last fiscal year for the first several months. Then after that, it sort of moderates a little bit, still not positive growth until very, very, very late in the fiscal year.
Bill, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, Cindy, thank you very much. That's a very fair answer, but I think the underlining point that I'm hearing is you may be coming back to us with this may very well be a moving target in the weeks and months ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gates, yes, and you'll see something on your agenda today with regard to that. Okay, so moving on to our assumptions. Our assumptions still remain similar to in past fiscal years. So we are trying to achieve structural balance in our funds, which means our recurring revenue will meet or exceed our recurring expenses. That's the reason for reduction since the revenue is going down. We are going to be using, though, the recession scenario that we get from our economist in order to build our revenue estimates for our jail tax, our vehicle license tax, our state shared sales tax, and I also believe the HERF funds are using the recession scenario. We do have contingency in the budget, so we have contingency based on our historical utilization, plus we have additional amounts set aside, appropriated in fiscal year 21 that would be able to address unanticipated economic shocks. And then beyond that, we have our 2 months reserves in the general and detention fund, as well as several other funds. So if there's a need to have some bridge funding, we have that available. I think our county's in a pretty good situation, though, when we look at how we prepared for this recession. So I would like to go over a couple of things that we've done previously to get us sort of ready for this day. First of all, our fiscal year 20 budget. That was based on the most likely revenue forecast, so that's a forecast that has a 50% chance of making it, 50% chance of missing it. However, when we built the budget in fiscal year 20, we built it based on the forecast that we received in January. At that point, the economy was still looking good. Things were still moving up. So when we got updated numbers, we consciously made a choice not to increase the budget to match those updated numbers. We stayed at the conservative most likely estimate. Beyond that, in fiscal year 21, that budget that I told you that we had created early on, that was actually based on the pessimistic scenario. So we had already taken steps to reduce the amount of revenue that we were anticipating based on the pessimistic scenario. Beyond that, things that we do on an ongoing basis is if we have a project that we start mid-year, we make sure that we have enough money set aside to fund the annualized cost of the project. So if there's maintenance that needs to happen, we make sure that we have that money set aside. We also make sure that we try to mitigate any state issues, so we put funding each year in contingency for things that we have seen that the state might hit us with. Also in fiscal year 20, one of the things that we did was transfer some of our operating money over to the capital fund. So what that did for us was it identified costs that were not ongoing in nature that could be easily reduced if a recession occurred. And again, we have an operating contingency, and that is actually separate from our reserves. So some organizations, it's one and the same. The contingency, the reserves, it's all the same pot of money. We have a pot of contingency that we can go to immediately to address something that happens, and then we have our reserves that can help bridge us through a downturn. And the last thing that I think is unique about our county compared to other organizations is that compensation decisions are made by the board. They're at the discretion of the board, and they're made annually. So there's nothing that locks us in to something that we have to fund on a year-over-year basis, other than retirement with regard to compensation. So I want to talk a little bit now what we've done so far to the budget so people can understand where we've come from. So again, I mentioned when we crafted the budget, initially we used the pessimistic scenario as far as revenues for fiscal year 21. When we got the information from Pollock with regard to where those revenues might land, when we got the March update, they were going to be $50 million down in sales tax, 11 in vehicle license tax, 15 million in our jail excise tax, and we were estimating probably about another 5 million from all the other revenue sources that we were anticipating for fiscal year 21. So that would be almost an $82 million reduction that we were looking at. On the non-recurring side, so those would be the funds that we, in essence, were saving this year that we could put towards one-time spending next year. Again, our sales tax from the estimates that we used early on were down $50 million. Vehicle, and that would be just in these next several months. So really between March, April, May, and June, we estimate $50 million down. Vehicle license tax down $4.4 million. The jail excise tax down $15 million. We anticipate some of our other revenues in the short term to go down about $20 million. So that would be fees and fines and things that would normally be occurring because people will be coming to the county doing business, and that's not going to happen. And then the transfer from the general fund over to the capital funds, that was going to be removed from the budget, so that's $25 million. And then unanticipated expenditures, so these were things that we hadn't forecasted initially when we did our forecast that we were thinking we would need to pay before the end of the year. Hopefully those things now can be taken care of with the CARES money, but we'll have to wait and see with that. So all in all, $124 million on the non-recurring side. So add those two together, we cut the budget over $200 million from that budget that we initially crafted at the beginning of March. So what did we cut? Well, the biggest cuts that we had initially were actually to things that were non-departmental. So we had line item contingencies set aside. An example of this would be we were anticipating an increase for our long-term care contributions. So we had money set aside for that increase. As of this point, that has not happened at the state, although we do know that they're going to be coming back into session, so we do not know if they will open up any budget issues at that point in time. But we took some of that contingency away. Those operating transfers, so the transfer we made to the capital fund and also $1 million transfer for our CGI upgrade, we got rid of those. We had asked departments to take, general detention fund departments to take 2% reductions to their operating budget. And we're going to go over some specifics about those in a couple slides. We removed the pay per performance, so about $23.7 million there got taken out of the budget. So looking at $108 million worth of reductions on the operating side. What that enabled us to do, though, is increase our contingency. So we do have extra funding in our contingency that would be appropriated to address any future mitigations to revenue situations that we might see that we didn't plan for. So all in all, the net reduction really was $82 million. Over on the non-recurring side, we got rid of some future projects or future year funding for projects. So we had funding initially set aside for the Central Court building build out for several additional floors. Right now, the only thing I think we have, the 13th, the 12th, and 11th floors still in the plan. Some other projects got either taken off the list if they were new, or they got moved to fiscal year 22. So an example of that, I believe, is Equipment Services and their Buckeye fuel station and building. We have it still in our CIP plan, but we're going to move it to fiscal year 22. So if funding does not come in, we wouldn't have started a project that we would have to scrap and waste that money. We'll wait and start it when we know the money's available. Parks projects, we had several new projects that were requested. We were not able to fund any new parks projects this year. They will carry forward most of their projects and actually are eliminating one of them. Future year technology, so we had money set aside for our desktop laptop replacement program through the whole cycle. We also had money set aside for another year of radio refresh, and we will have to deal with those now on a year-by-year basis. Some non-capital initiatives, so these would be things that would be one-time in nature in departmental budgets or non-departmental. Those are going down $9.1 million. An example of that is for years we've had we called it personnel savings not met, so it was sort of a safety net. If a department, elected or a judicial department, wasn't able to meet their personnel savings as they were budgeted, they could access that funding. That funding is removed this year. We utilized all our future reserves for equipment. So we've been putting money aside each year to do equipment replacement. We drew all that money out, and we are now using it this year in its entirety to fund the one-time request from this year. And we had some capital project savings that we were able to funnel back in, so that's $1.2 million. So we took about $152 million worth of reductions to the non-recurring budget, again, funneled back into our contingency, so we are prepared for some further downturn, about $27 million. So the net reduction there is $124 million.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
Just
Steve.
before we move forward, the estimated reductions to resources, that's as of when again? I know you told us, but that's as of when? You're estimating those reductions as of early March?
So on the operating side, it was March, and then we did do some updates on the non-recurring side in April because we didn't want things to get started right out the chute and then have to pull them back. So that's why we did. But we continue to get updates.
Early April, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so it was like, I believe it was around right after the board took the action on it.
Okay.
So, but we did get new numbers again on May 11th that were worse. Correct. Now I need to apologize because on the screen, on my screen, I'm not seeing all the labels, but in your handouts, I believe you should see all the labels. I will be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it says like category value. Okay. Well, I will tell you what they are. So the largest source of revenue in fiscal year 20 actually will be, or 21, will actually be down at the bottom there. It says property taxes, penalties, and interest. So that will be $642 million, about 20.9% of the available resources. This is actually down from fiscal year 20 when it was about 23.59%. Beyond that, we have our state shared sales tax for fiscal year 21, and that is going to be $597 million. So yes, that's down in the bottom right. And that's going to be at 19.45%. And again, that's based on Pollock's March numbers. So those two costs, or those two categories, they frequently flip-flop their places, 1 and 2. But the percentage overall for both of them this year is down, and that is really because the intergovernmental revenue is increasing. So that's the one at the top where it says category value. That's our intergovernmental revenue and our grants. And that is where you see the CARES money. So we got about $398 million worth of CARES funding. We are estimating that we'll spend part of that this year. So built into the budget for fiscal year 21 is $378 million for CARES. Then moving from third place to fourth place is the one that says category value 15.01%. That's our fund balances. So we will be using fund balances, about $461 million in fund balances for our capital plans for any one-time spending that's in the budget for fiscal year 21. That's followed by permits and patient fees and fines, of $294 million, just under 10%. Our vehicle license tax, $186 million at 6%. The jail excise tax at $174 million. Then our HERF revenues, $112 million, and miscellaneous revenues at 0.39%, or $21 million. So, as in the past, the largest piece of our uses, that one too. The largest piece of the uses are our public safety area. It will be $1.36 billion in fiscal year 21, and that's almost 44%. Again, it's the largest piece of the pie, but the percentage is actually lower than the prior year. It's lower percentage of the total, and that really has to do with the CARES funding. So if we go in the public safety arena, we have the Sheriff's Office, County Attorney, the Superior Court, Adult and Juvenile Probation, our Clerk of the Court, the Justice Courts, Constables, Public Defense, Planning and Development, Emergency Management, Public Fiduciary, and ICJIS. So those are the departments that comprise that public safety slice. Our next largest area is Health, Welfare, and Sanitation, and that's actually jumping to 32%, or $988 million, and that is specifically due to the CARES funding. So the $378 million of CARES funding is included in that slice. In addition to that, though, the departments that are in that piece of the pie are Correctional Health, Public Health, Human Services, Environmental Services, Air Quality, the Medical Examiner, Animal Care, and Control. And also in this slice of the pie is the payments that we make to the state for our health care mandate programs.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Supervisor Gates.
Yeah, thank you. Cindy, just a question on that. So again, for the fiscal year 2021, you're proposing 32% on health, welfare, and sanitation. So that's the number 2 category, second highest, right?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gates, yes.
And even before this pandemic occurred, so in the fiscal year 2020 budget, this was still the number 2 category, second highest category for us, right?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gates, yes. So in fiscal year 20, for comparative purposes, the public safety budget was just under 53%. The health, welfare, and sanitation budget was 22%. So that's growing to 32%, and public safety is going down to 44%.
Thank you.
So moving on, our other category, that's really the sort of general government and government operations. So in there we have the assessor, recorder, our elections department, the treasurer, the call center, county management, your offices, the board offices, the clerk's office, the clerk of the board, internal audit, and all the central and internal service departments. That slice is going to be about 15.89%, or $488 million. Part of that, though, is influenced by the capital plan. So as you know, this building is getting a makeover. So about $44 million for that is included in the fiscal year 21 budget, as well as $17 million for the elections department as a one-time cost to address the peak of the election cycle. The next largest slice of the pie is our highways and streets. So that's really our McDOT department at $193 million, 6%. Followed by education, which is the superintendent of schools department at $26 million, and finally culture and recreation at $18 million, and that's our parks department, both for parks operations and the parks capital plan. Oops. There we go. So the budget crossed over into the $3 billion range this year, again, largely due to the non-recurring CARES money. So the operating budget went up 4%, and that was about $83 million, and that was influenced by an additional $14 million of funding that we needed to get to the state of Arizona for the healthcare programs. We had new grants other than CARES of about $8 million. Our employee benefits across the organization, both the general and detention fund and all the special revenue funds, that increased about $17 million. Retirement cost across all funds increased about $9 million. And then, of course, we added positions to our probation office and added new staff for the intake transfer release facility. Those increases were about $12 million. And internal service charges and central service charges paid by special revenue funds are going up about $13 million. On the non-recurring side, that's where you see the big increase. So it's about a 76% increase. So $404 million, $378 million of that is directly related to CARES. So other things that are in the budget beyond the CARES is the $17 million that I mentioned for the primary and general election, that peak of the cycle. We have about $29 million for changes in departments and countywide for IT, software, and equipment. So that's where you'll see your desktop replacement. That's where you're going to see your radio program. And there are some other actually projects that are winding down, so they actually have a decreased cost from the prior fiscal year, and that would be the 225 Madison building and the ITR. So those costs went down, but however much they went down were mitigated by these other increases. So as I mentioned several times, we did receive CARES Act funding, $398 million. We're budgeting as though $20 million of that will get spent in this fiscal year 20, so 21 will have $378 million appropriated. So these funds are going to be used for, per the law, things that are necessary to address the coronavirus disease, COVID-19. We had to make sure that they are not in the budget as of February 27, 2020, and any costs need to be incurred between March 1st and December 30th, 2020. And the board approved guidance on the utilization of these funds, I believe, earlier this month, around May 6th. So those expenditures are still being vetted, and we will be updating all the department budgets as those changes get made. Per the guidelines, we will hold the tax rate flat. So for the fifth year, I believe, it'll be, for the primary, it'll be $1.4009. This has been the same since 2017. So any growth that we're going to see in the tax levy is due to one of two things. It's either due to the increase in property value of existing property or new property being added to the rolls. Based on the valuations for fiscal year 21, we're looking at about a 3.1% overall increase in the valuation of the property that was taxed last year, and about a 2.7% increase in all the valuations for new property added to the rolls. As you are aware, the Constitution of Arizona limits the amount of property taxes that can be levied in any given year. So our rate of 1.4009 would yield a levy of $640 million, and this is $140 million less than our maximum levy of $780 million, almost $781 million. This graphic is from fiscal year 20, but in fiscal year 20, about 11.43% of all the taxes that were levied in Maricopa County were from the county primary property tax. We're going to be updating this slide later on in the, probably in the August timeframe when we get all the information for all the other taxing jurisdictions. So as we talked about, outside of the property tax, our other major revenue sources are our state shared sales tax, our vehicle license tax, and this is for the general fund and detention funds, and our jail excise tax. So on this bar graph, you can see what happened in fiscal year 19. So we had about $590 million worth of state shared sales tax. In the budget for fiscal year 20, we had budgeted $611 million. Going across then, based on the forecast that we had from Pollock in January, when things were looking pretty good still, we thought that number would grow to $625 million. And then for fiscal year 21, we thought that would be $647 million. Fast forward, we had to change those numbers based on the March forecast. So based on March for fiscal year 20, now we're down to 597, and the March forecast was 597 for fiscal year 21 as well. We did actually change the fiscal year 20 forecast down further because we had received information in April, so that number is actually lower. As has been the case since fiscal year 14, we have been needing to funnel some general fund money into the detention fund in order for it to be considered structurally balanced. So the amount of money that it is getting from our mandated contribution from the general fund, our maintenance of effort, and the jail excise tax is not sufficient for the operations of the detention fund. So based on the budget for this fiscal year, that number is going to increase to $42 million, and by 2025, it could get close to $67 million. The county continues to be required to pay for costs that are outside of its control. So about 18.8% of our budget, almost $284 million, we will make payments to the state for healthcare programs. For some perspective on this, last year that percentage of our general fund budget was 17.8. So it's growing a little bit larger at a quicker pace than the rest of our expenses. So we have about $17.8 million for our access contribution, just under $200 million for our long-term care, our all-tax, and $69.2 million for behavioral health services in Arnold v. Sarn. In addition to that, we are making about $9.1 million worth of payments to the state for the juvenile corrections facility and also for the Department of Revenue. So all in all, $19.4 million of the general fund budget will be going to the state of Arizona.
Do you remember what that number was last year?
I think it was around 18%.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, because last year we did have one-time relief for another year of one-time relief of the juvenile payment. It is my understanding that this year that's not going to be the case, that we will have to make that payment. So as is the case every year, our government relations team does a great job looking out for the actions that are being taken down at the state, which might negatively impact the county's finances. So here are a couple things that we are tracking. I do know that even though the legislature has adjourned, there's thoughts that they might be coming back later. They passed what they call the skinny budget. So I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know what harm that might mean for us in the future if they do decide to open up the budget again. But here are some of the things that we are tracking. Delay in property tax, sales tax, and jail tax. So through this crisis, we've heard various rumors about there being a delay in the remittance of these taxes. So that eventually we would get them, we just wouldn't get them right away. If that went on too long, so if there was the duration of that went 3-4 months, that would be a real issue for us. That would be a cash flow issue for us. We have 2 months worth of reserves that we can fill a gap, bridge operations, but if it would go on for several months, that would be harmful for us. The legislature did pass a new bill that would require additional mailings as it relates to tax bills, so that will probably result in some additional costs in the coming years. We also heard that there might be some increases for the all-tax, so this would be for increased provider payments. So if they would enact that, we share in the cost of all-tax, so any growth in that program we pay 50% of, so we would have to come up with money to fund that. And lastly, we were tracking judicial officer salaries, that was a potential of something that might get funded in fiscal year 21, so we still have that on our radar as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Supervisor Chukri.
Yes. Cindy, if that were to happen, any of those scenarios as it relates to the legislature, would those dollars come from contingency, or how would we address that?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Chukri, yes. So we do still have some contingency set aside for all-tax, not a large amount, not as large as we thought previously, but we still have money set aside for that. But any other of these costs that we would need to address, yes, we would have to take it from our general contingency. But we were very mindful when we were doing our reductions to make sure that we beefed that up slightly in order to address any other kinds of shocks that we might experience.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
So before we get into department-specific changes, I wanted to go over a couple things that really are countywide impacts. And I'm going to focus right now on the general and detention fund because that's really your tax-based funds. Our change for our healthcare benefits, so it was $17 million overall countywide, but that impacted the general and detention fund by about $10.6 million. Retirement costs went up about $9 million countywide. Eight and a half of that was really in the general and detention funds. Our telecommunication and radio charges in the general and detention funds are going up $3.7 million, and risk management charges are going up about $2 million. This next slide summarizes the actions that were taken by departments when they were asked to reduce their general and detention fund operating budgets by 2%. So here are the categories of the various reductions that we saw. So about $7.6 million really were changes that departments proposed to their turnover savings, what we call vacancy savings. So that went up almost $8 million there. Position eliminations, we anticipate that will result in $7.1 million worth of savings. About $5 million worth of savings will come in the area of reduced supply services purchases, $1 million reduced supplies, and $1.5 million being shifted to other funds, and then small amounts of reductions in the area of capital and transfers and some other personnel costs.
Mr. Chair, just a real quick question on that slide.
Go ahead.
Cindy, what's the number of positions for elimination that feeds into that 7.06 million?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gates, I believe it's going to be somewhere around 90.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten, and she's going to take you through the changes to the budget. So before I go, all the changes to the budget, we were able to take care of these things before, like we call it pre-COVID. Everybody got like a pre-COVID. This was what your budget would have been had this crisis not happened. So she's going to be talking about the things that we were able to do before that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The Sheriff's Office Detention Fund operating budget is recommended at $236.6 million, which is a 5.74% increase or $12.3 million. The Sheriff's Office received $4.7 million for detention officers and a captain. These costs were partially offset by the Sheriff's Office submission under baseline of $1.3 million and an internal contingency of $1.7 million that was established with savings in the budget last year. Personnel savings increased by $9.8 million, offset by an overtime cost reduction of $4.7 million, plus other personnel adjustments for a total of $4.7 million. One-time funding is recommended for bus repair costs until replacement of $500,000. In addition, they have fingerprint scanners and printers of $263,000 and safety equipment for the new detention positions for $254,000. The Sheriff's Office General Fund operating budget is recommended at $130.5 million, which is a decrease of 0.82% or $1.1 million. The budget includes funding for technology system upgrades and stabilization for $1.3 million, an employee health and wellness team, and training and equipment for the critical incident stress management team for $466,000. There was a net change to personnel and benefits of $1.6 million, which includes personnel savings and the drop retirement adjustment. One-time funding is recommended for mobile applications for community-aided dispatch and one MCSO. The Sheriff's Office General Fund Compliance budget is recommended at $25.8 million, which is an increase of 0.3% or $76,000. The budget includes personnel adjustments for personnel savings and drop of $207,000 and technology maintenance contracts for $24,000. This slide shows the total Melendrez costs over the years. From 2008 to 2014, costs were $5.6 million. In 2015, $21.9 million. In 2016, they decreased to $18.7 million, but then increased in 2017 to $23.7 million. In 2018, they are $23.9 million. 2019 costs were $24.6 million. 2020 costs were forecasted at $28.4, and the 2021 budget is recommended at $32 million. Total costs for these 14 years are $178.5 million. As shown in the smaller chart in the upper left-hand corner, the top three costs for the Melendrez judgment order have been spent within the Sheriff's Office for $134 million, monitored and related costs of $23.3 million, and the plaintiff's attorneys for $10.4 million. The Adult Probation General Fund operating budget is recommended at $69.1 million, which is an increase of 3.49% or $2.3 million. Adult Probation received 3 probation officers in March 2020 to meet the current demand in caseloads. The positions and supplies funding for the full year in FY21 is $247,000. The Judicial Branch has one-time funding for their share of the Sheriff's Communications Center upgrade. Adult Probation's cost is $229,000. The Detention Fund operating budget is recommended at $42.4 million, which is an increase of 3.32% or $1.4 million. 16 probation officers were also created in the Detention Fund for $1.3 million. The Juvenile Probation General Fund operating budget is recommended at $20 million, which is a decrease of 5.52% or $1.2 million. Adjustments were made to the budget for shifts of funding within the branch and retirement contributions on overtime. The Detention Fund operating budget is recommended at $37.6 million, which is a decrease of 1.94% or $744,000. Juvenile Probation share of the Communication Center is $62,000. In addition, Juvenile Probation received an additional $1 million for the Juvenile Probation video camera system replacement. They received $1.5 million for the cameras in FY20. The Superior Court General Fund operating budget is recommended at $94.5 million, which is a decrease of 3.18% or $3.1 million. The Superior Court baseline decreased by $5.9 million for the state's share of 50% of the judge's costs, which was phased in at 25% in FY20 and 25% in FY21. The budget includes new positions for IT and the probate unit for $641,000, personnel savings adjustments of $212,000, and technology and supplies and services of $533,000. One-time funding is recommended for technology equipment replacement of $3.7 million, a data analytics consultant for $500,000, Superior Court share of the Communications Center for $8.5 thousand, and security equipment and vehicles for $295,000. The Clerk of the Superior Court operating budget is recommended at $38.9 million, which is an increase of 1.63% or $623,000. The Collections Unit and Finance was transferred to the Clerk of the Court for a total of $379,000. The Special Revenue Fund budgets total $12.1 million. The Justice Court's General Fund operating budget is recommended at $21.3 million, which is an increase of 0.22% or $46,000. There were no changes to the Justice Court's budget other than adjustments for internal service charges and retirement and medical premiums. The Special Revenue Fund budgets total $7.7 million.
Mr. Chair, just a question.
Go ahead.
Back on the Justice Court item, I see that the percentage of all other criminal traffic, so that's other than DUI, was down 30%. March 20 on March 19th. Is that a COVID-19 element there? Just fewer cars on the road, or?
I don't have the answer for that, but I can get that for you.
Thanks.
The Constable's General Fund operating budget is recommended at $3.9 million, which is a 2.12% increase or $81,000. The budget was adjusted for internal service charges, retirement, and employer health dental premiums. Turn over to Myra.
Good morning.
Good morning. The County Attorney General Fund operating budget is recommended at $101.4 million, which is a less than 1% or $903,000 decrease from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. Included are $30,000 for submission under baseline and a baseline reduction of $2.1 million for LURS building lease payments that are no longer needed as a result of their move to the new 225 West Madison building. The Special Revenue Fund budgets total $11 million. The Assessor General Fund operating budget is recommended at $26.5 million, which is a 1% or a $265,000 increase from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. Included are $463,000 of Mars software maintenance and cloud services for half a year. Elimination of rental registration fees of $130,000 and $187,000 for continuing operation of the legal class verification program. The general fund operating budget is recommended at $6.6 million, which is a 16% or $903,000 increase from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. Included are $64,000 increases in the Access Voter Information Database payment, a $144,000 transfer of funding from the elections budget for the National Change of Address mail budget, a $485,000 transfer of funding from the surcharge fund to help for help desk staff, and $222,000 for 4 indexing positions, and $118,000 for 2 voter registration leads. The surcharge operating budget is recommended at $4.4 million, which is flat from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. The surcharge fund non-recurring budget is recommended at $631,000. The elections general fund operating budget is recommended at $9.7 million, which is a 1% or $132,000 decrease from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. Included is a $144,000 transfer of funding to the recorder's office for the National Change of Address mail budget. The general fund non-recurring budget is recommended at $1.3 million and includes $100,000 for 25% of the final Dell lease payment, $250,000 for a command center, $700,000 for force protection construction costs at the north and south lobbies, $200,000 for replacement of damaged site books and printers, and $2 million for the second year of lease payments for elections tabulation equipment. The primary and general election cycle budget is recommended at $17.2 million, which is a 183% increase or $11.1 million increase from the fiscal year 20 revised budget.
just a question, Mr. Chair, on that item.
Go ahead, Bill.
So that item, thanks so much. Does that include, or I'm assuming that does not include the proposed plan that was recently presented to the board that would include additional cleaning supplies, additional resources to do a different election plan both in August and November based upon the COVID-19 pandemic. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gates, that is correct. Those costs are not included. We have been in touch with Scott Jarrett, and he indicated that COVID-19 related expenditures could be covered by the CARES and HAVA grants that they have coming.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The Treasurer's General Fund operating budget is recommended at $7.3 million, which is a 1% or $132,000 increase from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. The recommendation includes $230,000 in postage costs related to Senate Bill 1033, and the Special Revenue Fund budget is recommended at $125,000, which is flat from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. And the Special Revenue Fund,
The County School Superintendent General Fund operating budget is recommended at $2.9 million, which is a decrease of 0.66% or $19,000. There were no changes to the general fund budget other than base adjustments for internal service charges and retirement and medical premiums. The grant and special revenue fund budgets total $20.7 million in FY21. The Clerk of the Board General Fund operating budget is recommended at $1.5 million, which is an 8.37% increase or $116,000. The budget includes $121,000 for an assistant deputy clerk plus $6,000 for one-time equipment for the new position. The General Fund special appropriations are recommended at $124,000. The Enterprise Technology General Fund operating budget is recommended at $13.1 million, which is an increase of 1.3% or $168,000. The Major Maintenance operating budget is recommended at $23.4 million and includes an increase of $2.7 million for the Microsoft Enterprise License Agreement contract renewal. The Detention Fund operating budget is recommended at $1.1 million, which is an increase of 0.09%. One-time funding of $600,000 is recommended for the continuation of the Digital County initiatives and $5.4 million for year 2 of the desktop laptop replacement. The Environmental Services General Fund operating budget is recommended at $10.2 million, which is an increase of 6.56% or $631,000. Environmental Services requested 3 additional vector control technicians plus supplies for $459,000. One-time funding is recommended at $164,000 for vehicles and equipment for vector control. The General Fund Vector Control Foggers budget is recommended at $74,000. The Animal Care and Control General Fund operating budget is recommended at $932,000, which is an increase of 2.29% or $21,000. The funding allocation for enforcement unincorporated Maricopa County increased by $40,000. The Shelter Fund operating budget is recommended at $17.2 million. An operating transfer is budgeted from the general fund to cover a $1.5 million revenue shortfall. There is an additional one-time transfer in FY21 of $1.6 million to cover additional staff and shelter programs.
The Human Services General Fund operating budgets are recommended at $4 million, which is less than 1% or $7,000 increase from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. The recommended operating budgets include $201,000 for long-term care funding, $1.3 million for the paratransit program with Valley Metro, and $2.5 million for other community-based programs. The grants budgets are recommended at $54.8 million and include a $114.6 thousand increase in the transfer from the general fund for the indirect revenue shortfall. The general fund transfer is for a total of $759,000. The Correctional Health General Fund operating budget is recommended at $3.7 million, which is a 2% or $70,000 decrease from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. The Detention Fund operating budget is recommended at $68.1 million, which is a 2% or $1.1 million increase from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. The Detention Fund non-recurring budget includes $1 million for 7 medicine dispensing machines and a $400,000 carry forward for the Access Group biller. The Public Fiduciary General Fund operating budget is recommended at $4.7 million, which is a 10% or $421,000 increase from the fiscal year 20 revised budget. Included are $193,000 for indigent burial, $80,000 for an investigator position, $20,000 for technology services, and $4,000 for supplies. The fiscal year 2021 capital funds recommended budget is $307.1 million. Public safety has the largest use of capital funds and 40% or $123 million, which includes projects such as the Southwest Regional Justice Center at Mesa, MCSO substation at Avondale campus, and the public safety radio system. I also apologize because the categories and some information seems to be missing on the slides, but I think your printout should have it. The second largest category is the other category for $30,000 or $90.5 million. Is for 30% or $90.5 million, which includes projects such as the 301 Administration Building renovation, purchase of the South Block, and the Treasure System upgrade and reserve. Highways and Streets is the next largest category with 29% or $90.1 million for all of the McDOT projects. And the final and smallest category is Culture and Recreation of 1% or $3.6 million, which includes prior year carry forwards for all of the parks projects. As mentioned in the prior slide, the full $3.6 million of recommended park projects are prior year carry forwards. There is no new funding in fiscal year 21 for parks capital projects. A total of $119.1 million of continuing facilities capital projects are recommended in fiscal year 21. The continuing projects with the largest fiscal year 21 funding are the 301 Administration Building renovation for $44.4 million, the Southeast Regional Justice Center at Mesa for $34.6 million, and the MCSO substation at the Avondale campus for $16.4 million. A total of $49 million of continuing technology capital projects are recommended in fiscal year 21. The projects with the largest fiscal year 21 funding are the Public Safety Radio Refresh for $14.6 million, the Treasure Technology System Upgrade for $9.9 million, and Radio System Project for $6.6 million. There are $45.1 million of new IT and facilities capital projects recommended in fiscal year 21. $3.7 million is recommended for the Equipment Services Downtown Fueling Station, $14 million for the purchase of the South Block, $4 million for Human Resources Information System, $15 million for the Superior Court Electronic Court Recording, $8.4 million for an Emergency Management Facility Reserve. Funding for some of these projects still needs to be identified for for future years. There are an estimated $1.1 billion of unfunded CIP projects. The largest of the unfunded projects are the Jails Master Plan, all the Superior Court projects, and the Parks Master Plan. New funding or use of fund balance would need to become available to carry out these projects.
Okay, so retirement issues. As we talked about earlier, this continues to be a drain on the budget. This year, the costs are going up in the general detention fund about $8.5 million and another $500,000 in special revenue funds. And the long-term unfunded liabilities, they are increasing as well. You can see what they look like for fiscal year 19, all plans. The numbers are staggering, and the funded ratio of the plans is frightening as well. So ASRS actually went up very slightly from 12.11% to 12.12%, and that's where the bulk of our staff are. The elected officials plan actually stayed flat, but the three other plans, the PSPRS, so that would be the law enforcement officers at MCSO, the corrections officers at MCSO, and then the probation officers and detention officers at juvenile detention, those plans all had some sizable increases in fiscal year 21. Okay, FTEs. So in fiscal year 21, the budget as it sits right today has 14,323 regular full-time equivalent positions budgeted. Some of the adjustments that are going to be made due to the reductions from the 2% are not in that number, so that number will come down slightly when you see it at the final budget adoption. But the largest year-over-year increases, and we're actually comparing recommended budget to recommended budget. So we're really looking at what did we tell you at this time last year versus what we anticipate for fiscal year 21. So that delta is of like 200 positions really is what happened as people enacted their budgets in fiscal year 20, and then what increases we anticipate for 21. So largest areas of increases, we talked about the probation officer positions being added. They were added during 20, but it influenced that number. And in addition, we had about, I think, 96 positions added to the sheriff's office. So some of them had to do with their Queen Creek IGA, so they expanded their capacity there. They have some support at Maryvale, I believe. They have funding for law enforcement at the ITR, and then they also have new detention officer staff at the ITR as well. So all those things combined, those are the largest really areas of increases in FTEs for fiscal year 21. Okay, so we are getting near the end. So to summarize our fiscal year 21 budget, it reflects a reduced revenue projection based upon Elliot's initial forecast that we got in March. So because of that, we reduced our spending over $200 million in the general and detention funds from operating and non-recurring perspective. It still maintains a flat tax rate. There are structural balance in the county's major funds based on the current revenue projections. It has 2 months worth of reserves in the general and detention funds. It provides the funding that's needed for our retirement rate increases, and it provides funding for a new HRIS system. Moving forward, though, I looked back at my closing message last year, and this message is slightly different.
I bet.
Yeah. So there's really no way to know what the impact of this downturn is going to be. There's no modeling that can reflect how far deep it's going to go, how long it's going to last. As I mentioned earlier, we don't even have 1 full month of data. We did get data for the month of March, so that would be receipts that we're going to be getting in May, where state share of sales tax is down 8%. To put that into context, up until through February, it grew year-to-date, year-over-year, 9%. So it totally flipped from a 9% positive to almost an 8% negative. And that was just with a couple days of the shutdown. So we are bracing for something that's a little bit bigger than that. There were months earlier in the fiscal year where we had like a 14% year-over-year growth. So things are drastically different. We did have 2 updates, as I've mentioned, from Elliot's forecast, and I expect to get at least 1, if not 2 more, before we come to talk to you about at the final budget. So we will be making some recommendations there. And because of all this, you have actually an item on your agenda today asking to develop what we're calling a budget monitoring adjustment process. By approving this item, you'll allow our office to gather the information that we would need to craft a plan so we could respond to this revenue situation and make sure that we take the appropriate actions so we maintain that structural balance and we're still able to provide our services to our citizens. This next part of my message, though, is the same as last year, so we will continue to monitor the plan, and we will respond accordingly as we make our way throughout the fiscal year. We do have, as I mentioned, all the monthly data from Pollock, so we know what his estimates are for each month for each of the funding sources that he's forecasting. So we will be able to tell very quickly if we're on target or not as we get the data in, and then we'll be able to make some recommendations on how we might need to adjust throughout the year. We will also take any information based on our analysis and review and try to use that to inform the future. And then one final note is we need to remember to continue to plan for the next downturn. I think we are very fortunate. I think we're in a pretty good position right now. This board has been very conservative, and it's because of that leadership that we are able to do the response that we are now. We're not making drastic cuts right out of the chute. We're able to look at some of the things that we've done in the past and able to take advantage of those and leverage those. So we're not in a really, really bad situation right now. So I guess be encouraged to say that we would continue to do that as we move forward. So what do we have left on the budget calendar? We have today, hopefully we're going to adopt the tentative budget. Then we'll be coming back on June 22nd to have our public hearing on the budget, have our truth and taxation hearing, and then final budget adoption. And then the tax rate will be set on August 16th. Okay, so before we close out on the county, I just wanted to thank Joy again for, she's awesome, always giving us great guidance, great support as we get through this process, always available to us, and has made this a lot easier this time around than it was the last time we went through this kind of recession. And I also want to thank Leanne, who, I don't know if you guys know, but Leanne was my boss in the budget office way back when. She's re-immersed into the budget process. It's like she's never left. It's awesome. She stepped right in. And then my team isn't here today, so I can't say my team, but they have been working at home for the past several months. They're doing a great job, and it's really because they've been very flexible, been able to respond very quickly to the downturn, gathered the information that needed to be gathered, and got that all in. It's because of their flexibility that we're able to do this for you today. So with that, we are done with our presentation on the county and can take any questions.
Okay, before I make some statements, I was just wondering, do any of my colleagues have any questions for Cindy and the budget staff of what you have heard?
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I guess my question is either to Cindy or maybe you as the chair as we move forward. So we have the tentative budget with us. In the past, as long as I've been here, this is like 5 years now, the budget, when we came down to the final adoption, had very minor changes to it, if any. I would anticipate the budget that would be in front of us, and I'm guessing will be much different, perhaps. Possibility. Considering what numbers you are given in June, and I don't know the time frame, I have no idea when, but so I guess, Mr. Chairman, I guess my question is more to you. How do you proceed moving forward? Are we going to go ahead and approve a budget? Now, again, this is not till mid-June. Do you foresee making some adjustments, considering the numbers we have, and then possibly even looking at it again in a few months. I mean, I think the state, I was watching the state, and the state's kind of in the same situation. They passed their skinny budget, which no one knows what that means, but they passed their skinny budget, and with the anticipation that there will be a special session to deal with any type of shortcoming. So I guess my question is, how do you foresee moving forward?
So, Steve, what I would like to tell you is I'd love to be able to do a tentative budget that's going to look exactly the same as what we're going to vote on in June. I'm going to bring your attention that we're going to get to item number 4, which is would be called budget monitoring and adjustment process. These numbers are changing. I would assume there's a gigantic hole being blown into the city budgets, the state budget, our budget. Here in the short term, we're getting to see a little bit of a lag with our smaller share of the state shared revenues. People are going to pay their property taxes through their mortgage, things like that. But we absolutely will probably be having another further talk here in the next month or so as numbers evolve. So we'll get to number 4. I would love to say I can't wait to get this budget through and then pass on all the issue to the next chairman. But we're not known for that. We're known
Jack,
for.
are you ready? Jack, are you ready? You listening to this?
We're known for being nimble, and that's what this is about. I mean, we are all working hard together, and I know that our staff have the ability to attend different budget sessions every week to see these evolving numbers. So all I can say is, we haven't seen everything yet, but we're getting us in a position that we'll have something to vote on in June. So, Cindy, would you like to correspond or disagree with me?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's accurate. I think we don't know enough yet to make a statement about what's going to happen in June. Hopefully, we will have at least an idea about one good month of data on what this has meant to our revenues by the time that we come to the tentative budget, the final budget adoption, and that way we can make an informed recommendation to you as far as what to do for fiscal year 21. The one thing we have to remember is we're setting a cap. Mm-hmm. So if we push that cap too far down and things aren't as bad, then you won't be able to recover as quickly. So we can maybe recommend some strategies on how to deal with that.
Great.
And Mr. Chairman, just one final question. The 5 years I've been here, the tax rate has always stayed flat. When was the last time, Cindy, we've addressed that as a board?
The changing of the tax rate?
Yeah.
So the tax rate, the last time it changed was 2017, I believe, and it went up 4 cents. And that was actually when we added the debt service payment for the 225 building to the budget.
Okay. Good luck, Mr. Chairman. Let me know how this all turns out, all right?
Great. Any questions so far on the phone?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Chukri.
I just want to thank you for your leadership. Cindy, the team you just mentioned, I thank all of you. I'm sorry we can't be there in person, but it does not in any way diminish the appreciation we have for your hard work to pull all this together and to say that where we're heading is a moving target is really the understatement. But that being said, the extra money, hopefully, that we have dedicated to contingency will help should we veer too far off course. The fact that we are keeping the rate flat, I don't want to tax people more when there's this kind of uncertainty. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But to keep the rate flat and to be able to do what we're doing, I think is good governance, good management. So thank you, Chairman Hickman, for your work on this and your team as well, Cindy.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Jack?
I just want to thank all of you for your leadership, Joy and Cindy and all the staff, our chiefs for the work. I know this has been extraordinarily difficult, and what you've done so far has been really impressive, so thank you.
Great, thank you, Jack. And last, I didn't hear Mr. Gates yet, but there'll be other opportunities, I'm sure, as we get a little bit further down. I just want to thank Cindy. You guys, I know this teleworking thing has been done exceedingly well, I think, in your office. There has been, I know that you guys are working on weekends and trying to put something in front of us that with this ever-changing environment, it's been a really pleasure to see how your group and Joy's groups has been working together to get something in front of us, and all of the chiefs that have been talking through the week. I know they have, because I don't know, Scott, do we talk about a budget issue 3 times a day, it seems like, on the phone, and making sure that the education is there with the other districts also as this thing continues to go. So thank you, Scott and Michelle, as well as Cindy and Joy for everything you do. Leanne, welcome back again. You've been great also. So there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be a sequel of every 2 weeks to a month here on this budget. So with that, the Board of Supervisors will now consider agenda item number 2 regarding the adoption of the tentative budget, the capital improvement plan, and the executive summary of the 2021 budget.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jack.
I move we approve the fiscal year 2021 tentative budget in the amount of $3,071,744,691 by total appropriation for each department, fund, and appropriation unit group listed in the attached schedules. Also adopt the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2021 through 2025 and approve the attached executive summary.
Thank you, Jack. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We will now move to agenda item number 3 regarding setting public hearings for truth and taxation and a special meeting regarding the Maricopa County 2021 budget. Agenda item number 3. Is there a motion for agenda item number 3?
Mr. Chairman,
Jack.
I move that we set the public hearing of the budget, the truth in taxation hearing, and a special meeting for June 22nd, 2020, as outlined and described in the agenda, and give notice that tax levies and tax rates will be set by this board Monday, August 17th. Should that be 2020? 2020, also noting that these meetings may be held by webinar.
Great. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll now move to agenda item number 4. Cindy, still here. Would you give us a brief overview of this item regarding monitoring the budget, of which we are getting to now, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, given the uncertainty of the severity of this recession and the duration, what we're asking is that in order for us to make sure that the 21 budget is sustainable over the long haul, that we get some direction from you with regard to how we're going to move forward. So really what we're seeking is we're going to continuously monitor the revenue picture with our economists. So as we get information in, we will try to bump it up against the assumptions and make sure that we understand which direction we're heading. But in order to help us to be able to respond, what we're asking is, and we're not going to act on these immediately, we're going to gather information and then look at the revenue picture and respond then, would be to have departments submit revenue reduction packages of 3%, 5%, 10%, and 15% of their tentative budget in the general and detention fund operating areas. So really that's what we're looking to do, is gather the information. So as we work our way through this process, either before the tentative or before the final budget's adopted or throughout next year, we have the information readily available. We'll get the information from the economists on the revenue side. We'll get information from departments on the expenditure side, and we'll try to marry up what makes the most sense as far as a recommendation on how we make sure that this budget is sustainable and balanced over the long haul. In addition to that, we will ask also, though, for special revenue funds to give us specific plans. So if they do believe, if they're currently, and their revenue experience is probably quicker than what we're seeing with our tax-based revenues, if they are seeing a downturn, they are going to be asked to give us a plan by July on how they're going to be able to make their budget throughout fiscal year 21.
Okay. On the phone, any questions on that?
Mr. Chair, I don't have a question, but I just want to thank Cindy and the team for this approach. This is absolutely consistent with the tradition of fiscal discipline and prudence that far predated me joining the board, and this is absolutely the right thing to do. And I just want to make sure that people throughout the county are not unnecessarily alarmed. But having said that, I think this exercise is going to be very fruitful to again look at what we've discussed. We've just voted to approve a budget that already has 2% reduction in what we were initially thinking, and having our departments and having the other electeds look at 3, 5, 10, and 15% reductions is a good exercise, and it's the right thing to do to prepare us, because as has been made clear again today, we don't know where we're headed with revenues. We just don't. And this is the right thing to do. And it is, I salute you, Mr. Chair, for heading us in the direction, and Cindy and the team for doing this, and to get the very latest information that we possibly can have when we're back together on June 22nd to vote on the budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bill. Steve, did I hear you? Steve Chukri?
No, Mr. Chairman, I said I had no comment.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any other comments? So
No, I couldn't agree more, Mr. Chairman, with what Mr. Gates said. Thank you, Cindy and her entire team. This is the right approach. We wish we all had a crystal ball to look at and kind of see the future, but I think this is the right steps, considering this is uncharted territory. So I thank you, and thank Cindy and her entire team for the work they are not only putting with their normal budgetary duties, but actually having a look at alternatives as well. So I think this is good.
Jack, anything?
Well, I think the key here is that we get all this resolved under the current chairman.
I agree. I hope so. Yeah, and as just a special message for all the agency heads and all the publicly elected officials. This is my 7th, 8th budget I've voted on, and if I believe that this county was running in a fat way, I wouldn't have voted on budgets prior to this. I understand people will think that if this gets really bad, I feel we'll be cutting into bone, not fat, but bone. And I'm sure that I'll have some other people that'll feel the same way. We run a lean and tight organization here for the last several years, based on just even the people that came before us, and this could get really tough. And I hope not. I hope that we come roaring back into an economy, but this item here is talking about what we do well, and we identify what's going on in this county with our tax base, our revenues, and we hopefully will be able to turn on a dime and be able to continue with great customer service to the county taxpayer, of which they expect. But this is a new economy, at least for the next couple months, and hopefully we'll be a government structure that will respond accordingly to to the taxpayer and our citizens. So I appreciate it. I appreciate this. This is a different type of thing to be on our agenda during a budget, but it's needed. So I look to see if I have a motion for item number 4.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jack.
I move approval of agenda item number 4.
Great, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
No,
Supervisor Gallardo.
I was just giving my colleagues an opportunity.
A chance to do that? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, we will now recess as the Board of Supervisors and convene as the improvement districts. The documents regarding these districts are included in the backup materials where each district is listed along with the associated direct assessment of estimated tax rate. Is there a motion for the improvement districts, item I-1 and I-2?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor
I move that
Sellers.
we approve the fiscal year 2021 tentative budget for all of the special districts and improvement districts as described in the agenda and per the budget request as listed on the attachment. And that we set the public hearing on the budgets along with a special meeting for June 22nd, 2020, as outlined and described in the agenda.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Chukri. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll now adjourn as the improvement districts and convene as the flood control district to consider the tentative budget and set hearing dates for the adoption of the final budget. Cindy, would you like to make a presentation on item F1?
I think I do. Okay, so for the flood control district, their overall expenditures are going to be $127.1 million. Also, similar to the county, their tax rate will remain flat for fiscal year 21. Their CIP is $89 million, and over the 5-year plan, it would be $442 million, almost $443 million. That concludes the presentation for the flood control district.
Great. Thank you, Cindy. Is there any questions? The Board of Directors of the Flood Control District will now consider agenda item F2 and F3, which include the adoption of the tentative budget and the hearings related to the final adoption of that budget.
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairman Sellers.
I move that we approve the fiscal year 2021 flood control district tentative budget in the amount of $127,137,866 by total appropriation for each fund and appropriation unit group of the flood control district, and that we set the public hearing on the budget, the truth and taxation hearing, and a special meeting for June 22nd, 2020, as outlined and described in the agenda for the flood control district.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Gates. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We will now adjourn as the flood control district and convene as the library district to consider the tentative budget and set hearing dates for the adoption of the final budget. Cindy.
Okay. Another quickie. The overall budget for the library district is $36.7 million, and as with the flood control district and the county, their property tax rate would remain flat. That would yield a levy of $25.4 million.
Great. Thank you, Cindy. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Supervisor Sellers.
I move that we approve the fiscal year 2021 library district tentative budget in the amount of $36,676,046 by total appropriation for each fund and appropriation unit group of the library district, and that we set the public hearing on the budget, the truth and taxation hearing, and a special meeting for June 22nd, 2020, as outlined and described in the agenda for the library district.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sellers. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, with a comment, if I might, Mr. Chair.
Sure, I'll give you the second and a comment. Go ahead, Bill.
Awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone in the library district for their great work in this, during this pandemic and shifting their operations, sort of re-emphasizing the digital resources that are available, the pickup service as well, and just the incredible work that they've done around the county.
Thank you for that, Bill. I appreciate those statements. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We will now adjourn as the library district and convene as a stadium district to consider the tentative budget and set hearing dates for the adoption of the final budget. So Cindy, stadium district budget, please.
Okay, yeah, this is the end here. So the stadium district's budget is recommended at $9.2 million. Of that, 6.5 is the car rental surcharge, which continues to come to the county, and then that will be immediately remitted over to the Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority. There is an estimated $2.5 million in fund balance that will need to go to the team in fiscal year 21, and then the $250,000 the team payment to the county, or to the stadium district, is still part of the budget, and any expenditures that are necessary for those funds are part of the budget.
Great, thank you. Any questions? The Board of Directors will now consider agenda items S2 and S3, which include the adoption of the tentative budget and the hearings related to final adoption of the budget. Is there a motion for items S2 and S3?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Sellers.
quick question first, and then I'll make a motion.
Okay.
My question is, are these special districts subject to adjustment as we go forward as well?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Sellers, I do not expect that the stadium district would be subject to an adjustment because that money just is money coming in, coming in, going out. Flood control and library, their primary resources are actually from property taxes. So we are hopeful that the property taxes that get levied will come in. So I'm guessing that they will not need to be, but we will monitor all their revenue sources to make sure their operations are within their budget.
Okay.
Great question.
Thank you. I move that we approve the fiscal year 2021 Stadium District tentative budget in the amount of $9,250,000 by total appropriation for each fund and appropriation unit group of the Stadium District, and that we set the public hearing on the budget, the truth and taxation hearing, and a special meeting for June 22nd, 2020, as outlined and described in the agenda for the Stadium District.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I prepared the motion for Supervisor Sellers, but I don't believe the Stadium District has a truth and taxation hearing, so I apologize for putting that in, so we can just leave that out. There will be a public hearing on the Stadium District budget, but there will not be a truth and taxation hearing for Stadium District.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
As amended?
As amended.
As amended.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
Second as amended.
All right, second is amended too. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We will now adjourn as the Stadium District and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. Is there a motion to convene in executive session?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we convene in executive session.
Thank you, Vice
Second.
Chair. And we have a second by Bill?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries, and we will now go into executive session. Is that are we moving over?
Mr. Chairman,
Give
if
5
I
minutes.
might ask for maybe a 5 to 7 minute recess so that we can kind of reset the room for your executive session.
Okay, so for my colleagues on the phone, it is 11:09 on my phone. If you guys want to take a quick break, we'll start back up at 11:15 in the other room. So thank you
No,
guys
here.
for, oh, here?
Yes.
Oh, we're doing it here. Okay. Okay, thank you guys. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
So.